Today we are reviewing information that you learned how to do in 6th grade, and this is just finding area of different figures because we are going to use this knowledge to move into our new concept, which is area of composite figures. This is just like the circle unit where it's super short, so we're going to practice for a few days and then review and test. So it comes up pretty fast. So, like the same thing, notes, 3 days of practice, and then review tests, just so you are aware. So a blank is a four-sided figure with opposite sides congruent and 4 right angles. This is a rectangle. And blank is a two-dimensional figure with opposite sides parallel and opposite sides the same length. So opposite sides parallel, opposite sides same length. This is a parallelogram. Okay, and so for area of parallelogram and rectangle, we have a formula of A equals base times height. So if we look at number 1, we have a base and we have a height. It's important to label the figure. Just like our circle unit, we always started with the formula, so we're always going to write the formula down first. So just going to grab a new color. Okay, so area equals base times height. Can y'all see that? Do I need to grab a darker color? And then area equals 7. It is multiplication, so we're going to put the 5 in parentheses. And then, of course, we just solve. We multiply, and area equals 35 inches squared. So if we remember rectangle, parallelogram, those are super easy formulas. So here we have a parallelogram. This is where this line, this side right here is parallel to this side, okay? Which means they're also congruent. So we have a base and a height. This is going to be your base. Now, if you notice, this line right here is slanted. So this is not your height. Okay, and then that's why they have this dotted line right here to show the height from top to bottom of the figure. Okay, so area equals base times height, writing our formula down, and then plugging in. Area equals 11.7 times 20.8. So we're going to go off to the side. 20.8 times 11.7. Okay, go ahead and press pause and multiply this out and write your answer. Okay, so you should have gotten that area equals 243.36 centimeters squared. So let's go to our next formula. Our next formula says a square is a rectangle with all sides congruent. And then since the length and width are congruent, you can write the formula for the area of a square using an exponent. So instead of area equals base times height right here, it's going to be that this is a side and this is a side. And it's super important that we remember this because it's used a lot in 8th grade math. And so if you can't plug in or think about A equals S squared and you just automatically go to base times height when looking at a square, then you're not going to get some of those problems correct. So we want to make sure that we can recognize that if it's a square, your sides are the same, therefore it's sides squared, and not base times height. Will you get the same answer? Absolutely. And I'm going to show you. But again, this formula is used so much in 8th grade that we want to make sure that we use S squared for squares. So area equals, the side length is 10 squared. And area equals, what does it mean to be 10 squared? It means 10 times 10, which is 100. Okay. And then, like I said, I'm going to show you how it's the same. So we have area equals, if we were to do base times height, it would be base and height, which is 10 times 10, which is what we just did. Again, I'm just showing you that it's the same, but this formula is super important. Okay. So go ahead and write a formula to solve this area of a squared, plug in and solve, and then press play when you have finished. Okay, so if just checking that you have this formula and that you have this plug-in. You can even put this in parentheses if you want to, but make sure this is what you're using. Go ahead and finish solving. Press play when you are done. Okay, and you should have gotten that area equals 1.69 feet squared. Okay, so the next formula that you learned is an area of a trapezoid. And a parallelogram is made up of two congruent triangles. Let's put that right here. So the area of a trapezoid is 1/2 so because it's two congruent triangles, that's where the 1/2 comes from, of the height and the sum of the bases, base 1 and base 2. So here we have this formula. A equals height, parentheses, B1 plus B2 divided by 2. So again, these lines are diagonal. So if these lines are diagonal, that's not what we would use for the height, which is where this line goes straight down and becomes your height. And then up here is your B1 and your B2. If we notice, the operation for B1 and B2 is addition. So it's completely okay if we labeled these B2 and B1. So because it's addition, the order doesn't particularly matter. Typically I put the smaller one as B1 and the bigger one as B2, but because it's addition, it's okay. So let's go ahead and plug in. Area equals your height. Remember, we always write our formula down first. B1 plus B2 all over 2. Side note, you can write this on the back or whatnot, but our side note is going to be that multiplying by 1/2 is the same as dividing by 2. So this is super important to know for trapezoids and for triangles, which we're going to do triangles next. So, okay, let's plug in. A equals your height, which is 8. B1, which is 11, plus B2, which is 14, all over 2. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do here is PEMDAS, which is going to be to add these two numbers. Okay, so then we have area equals 8, and then inside your parentheses, 11 plus 14 is 25. Okay, and then divided by 2. So then let's go off to the side. 25 times 8, 5 times 8 is 40. 8 times 2 is 16, plus 4 is 20. Okay, so then we have area equals 200 divided by 2. And area equals 200 divided by 2 is 100 centimeters squared. And that's our answer. If that went a little fast for you and you didn't get it all, make sure you press pause and make sure all this is on your paper, especially this. This right here. Okay. Okay, so go into the next trapezoid. I'm going to write the formula with you. A equals H B1 plus B2 all over 2. Okay, so looking here, your dotted line, that's your height, B1, B2. Okay, so I want you to push pause. I want you to plug in. I want you to solve all the way to find the area, and then press play when you have finished. Super important that you try all the steps on your own before pressing play. Okay, so you should have gotten area equals 68 meters squared. And make sure that you have that. And if you don't, that you are pressing pause and checking your work. Okay, so we're on our very last shape that you learned last year, and that is triangle. So before I get into triangle, I just want to say this really quick. Make sure you have this paper tomorrow, please. And for this entire unit, you will be able to use this paper because we're going to be doing lots of different shapes together to come up with a big answer. And so it's super important to have this paper where it has all the formulas, but not only all the formulas, the examples on how to solve them. So do not lose this, okay? A parallelogram is made up of two congruent triangles. The area of a triangle is 1/2 the area of the base and its height. Okay, so where I said, yes, a couple of problems ago, multiplying by 1/2 is the same as dividing by 2. That is why you have two formulas for area of a triangle, because multiplying by 1/2 is the same thing as dividing by 2. I will tell you most often, if not all the time, I will be using this formula. I believe that's the formula that's on your star chart, and dividing by 2 is easier sometimes. So, again, these lines right here are diagonal, so those would not represent your height. So this is your height of 8, and this one we do not know base, and we're looking for area, okay? So we have area equals base times height divided by 2, and we know 40 is area, so 40 equals base, and then we know our height of 8 divided by 2, okay? So inverse operation, this is dividing by 2, so we're going to multiply by 2 on both sides. That goes away, and then we have 80 equals 8b. Okay, and our final operation is division, dividing by 8 on both sides, and b equals 80 divided by 8, which is 10 meters. Okay, and last problem. So number 8, you're actually solving for area. Like I said, writing the formula A equals, I would use BH over 2. If you ever see me going through a problem, that's what I'm going to pick. So looking here, you're going to plug in, solve, and then again, press play when you have finished. Okay, so you should have gotten the area equals 38.4 meters squared. Again, if you didn't get that, you're going to want to press pause and find your mistake and correct it. Note should always be right. So that's it for today. You need to take a picture and submit it on Canvas. And then tomorrow we're going a step further into area of composite figures. And so remember, please have this in your possession tomorrow for class.